How to beat analog horror creatures. That is what we're going to be talking about today, okay? We're getting into the spooky season, we're getting into September, and I want to get ourselves in the mood, okay, to celebrate going into the fall. I would like to make a little good old-fashioned scary video, and if you've been around the channel for a minute, you would know my original breakout stars on the channel were actually analog horror videos. For the longest time, I think it was the analog horror tier list was my #1 video on the channel. And then that finally got dethroned by the zombies video, which is at this point just becomes synonymous with the channel. And I thought, to get us back in the spooky season, I'm going to be making a video about analog horror creatures again. But this time, instead of talking about what are the chances, no. I'm going to tell you my personal game plan to take out these creatures, okay? And at a brief little rundown of the monsters that are going to be in here. We have the Mimic from Vita Carnis, the Alternates from Mandela Catalog, the Boiled One from Phenomenon from the series of the same name, the Local 58 creature, the Man in the Suit, the Greylock Intruders, and of course, the Painter from The Painter. We're going to be going through each of these. And listen, man, this is not even like a wider critique on any of the series. I'm actually a fan about literally everything that I'm talking about here. I just want to have some fun and talk about how I would personally, within the universe that it takes place, beat each of these analog horror monsters, okay? And if you enjoy this video, please consider like, comment, and subscribe. We are trying to get to 300,000 subscribers before the end of the year. It's a lot. I know. It's going to be difficult. I know that is. But I have faith that we are going to be able to hit it. And if we could blast through that, we will hit 500,000 subscribers before the release of GTA 6. And with all that out of the way, let's get into the video. Let's go. The Mimics from Vita Carnis. Vita Carnis takes place in a universe where out of absolutely nowhere, there was a new entity that essentially spawned into the reality about the same time that World War II takes place. Are those two things connected? Probably, but I haven't deep dived into Vita Carnis enough to know that that's the case. I imagine that this is some type of like interdimensional creatures that manage to splice over. Think like the Stephen King's The Mist, where like a dimensional rift was opened, but they don't actually dive into like really the science of how it happened. It's just very heavily implied that that's what they did, okay? That's my personal headcanon on what's going on in the world of Vita Carnis, with a brand new animal type, that being living flesh, basically. Okay, they start off with these little bug things, and then they go into... No, they start off as vines, then they go into bug things, then they become worms, and then there's the potential of them becoming a mimic. What is a mimic, you may ask, okay? Essentially, bro, imagine if I took the build of a Wendigo, and then I just took the skin off of it, and then because it has the term mimic in it, and this is another meme of the channel, mimicry is the most terrifying thing that is just normal in the animal kingdom. Fun fact, when you go into like Norse mythology, when they talk about how Odin had crows, the reason why they thought Odin would communicate through crows is because crows can actually vocalize like a parrot. They're just more sigh than a parrot is. I'm not even kidding you. If you have crows by your house, they are smart enough to say hello to you if they need to, which is a hell no from me, okay? So imagine this, bro. You got a 6'5" to 7 foot tall, skinless creature that is actively trying to consume you. That is what we are essentially dealing with here, okay? And then you know what? I actually have a rundown, a combat dossier of their strengths and weaknesses. What are the strengths of the Mimic from Vita Carnis? Strengths, we got perfect imitation, can copy human voices and cries for help. Now, I am going to add this in here. When I mean by perfect, I mean it can use selected phrases that it knows as a hunting call. For example, if you're walking through the woods and you see her, help, help, I'm already not gonna help you, bro. You can judge me in the comment section down below. I have said this multiple times. If I'm walking through the woods in the dead of night and I hear somebody scream help, I ain't doing that. I'm just not gonna do that, dog. There's actual real reasons why I wouldn't, but let's move on. An ambush predator, durability, toughness, resistance blunt force trauma, and small arm fire, and psychological warfare, exploits the emotions of its prey, instilling terror, and in some cases sympathy, because it'll also mimic crying to get you to go help it, and then when you get close to it, and it, gets you away from the rest of the people, it's got done. On top of that, it's like absurdly good at hiding. It has this ability to contour its body basically into furniture where it can stay for hours to days at a time until you are alone, and then it'll get out of there, and then it'll take you out, okay? But I'm saying all of this, is it lost? Are our chances of taking this thing out absolutely zero? Maybe for you, but not me, dog, okay? In the words of my grandpappy, okay? If you cannot take care of it with a 12-gauge slug you never had a chance to begin with, okay? And how am I dealing with the mimic from Vita Carnis? Here are some weaknesses that I've been able to catalog from watching Vita Carnis. Number 1. Close range dependency. From what I've been able to gather, the mimic relies on being within arm's reach of you in order to take you out. And because it is an ambush predator, that implies that it is bits made. I'm sorry, bro. Ambush predators require on you not being on edge, not you being on guard to take you out. And I'm frankly, bro, that's just not me. Limited intelligence. That's what I was talking about with the perfect imitation. Yes, it can imitate you, but it has limited intelligence in terms of what to do with that knowledge. So, let's say you get a compound where you have to use a selected phrase to get in, or there's only a few different ways that you can get in, and a creature that's unable to articulate and phrase for passwords isn't going to be able to get in. That would be a way to safeguard a villain for a safe house. Next up. Auditory tell. Voices distorted, uncanny, and slightly off. I'm gonna be real, dog. Some of y'all would be so inebriated after like a Friday night out with the boys of you trying to get some, only to be left disappointed that the only thing that you managed to get was a backhand to the face because somebody looks at you and they think, brother, that boy is chopped. Okay, and at that point, maybe you'll fall for the distorted voices. Even then, probably not. I'm sorry. Again, if I'm hearing distorted voices coming from the busses, the very last thing I'm going to do is... Woo! Absolutely not. That's not what I'm doing, okay? Another weakness. Environmental reliance. Best in dark, eco-heavy areas, abandoned buildings, areas that would be easy to orchestrate an ambush, okay? Now you understand where I'm coming to with this. This is an ambush predator that requires that requires you to be alone in order to take you out. I'm hearing all of this, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, like the rest of the creatures from Vita Carnis, it has a weakness to high-caliber fire, and on top of that, literal fire, okay? So maybe my granddaddy's saying about the 12 gauge is going to come in clutch, but I would also take out a, not so much a buck shot, but I would be doing a magnesium shot, reacts with the sky coming out like a dragon breath round. That would be the route that I am going with this mimic. However, there are other strats that could be used, like ones that I have right here. Don't trust the damn voices. Like that. Like literally that simple. Like again, this is why I don't listen to the screaming out in the woods at night. I don't deal with that. No, it's not a baddie. It's not a baddie goth muscle mommy. No. It's a cougar trying to eat you. In some cases, those are the same thing. But in this case, no, it is a mountain lion. Next up, keep distances plus light. Yes, brother. I'm sorry. Again, this is a creature that relies on its ability to get within arm's reach of you to take you out. If I can keep an area illuminated, an area a wide range where I have enough time to get some shots off on the target, then I think my chances are getting exponentially better. Brother, fight smart. I'm sorry. Don't be coming at this thing with a baseball bat thinking that you're built like Negan from The Walking Dead. No, bro. You are built like the Pillsbury Doughboy with low testosterone. Brother, I'm sorry. Somebody had to tell you that. No, you're not even... Yeah, yes, 100% you're the Pillsbury... You have less testosterone than the Pillsbury Doughboy. You ain't handling this business, dog. I'm sorry. No. Keep it to a distance. No small arms. Anything... just... Brother, I'm sorry. Of course, this is what we're going to have to do. And this, I'm going to reiterate this point again because it happens multiple times in the series that I kind of have to bring it up. Don't listen to the voices and don't use melee weapons. If you think something is inside of your house, the very last thing that you should be doing is exploring the house. No, get a room, a something, barricade it off, and then call the authorities. Do not... Man, I think that I hear some scuttling and screaming throughout my house. Do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to open the door unarmed. Brother, I'm sorry. I'm surviving all of this. However, I acknowledge we have enhanced strength, some level of intelligence here. But I'm gonna be real with you. We are looking at maybe a high diff scenario, okay? Give me and two guys. Oh, I'm handling this business, and it's not even close. I think that's a high diff scenario, but that's pussing it. I just want to put it middle of the road. The alternates from Mandela Catalog. Now, I already hear people saying there is literally no way that you could take on those things. And to that, I would say probably. Probably. These are literally demons. And these are not only demons, these are demons that were unable to hijack the entirety of the Judeo-Christian faith. And now praying actually summons them. Brother, we might be cooked, but I was able to find out some level of weaknesses that can be dealt, and there's one that's pretty obvious, that if I'm in the Mandela-verse, I think I would actually be able to take advantage of this. Number one, let's get into the strengths of these creatures. Number one, literal perfect imitation, okay? When they reach max level imitation, you cannot tell them apart from the original thing that they are trying to become. Psychological domination. They not only cause paranoia, they have a straight up supernatural level of getting inside of your head and mentally destroying you. It is actually categorized as a disorder within the verse, to the point that, like, the longer you're around them, think of it as like a cognito hazard, but not quite as strong as like a boiled one phenomenon. But it is strong enough to get you to a point where you're actively contemplating things. Next up, reality manipulation. This is kind of unclear. We don't know if it's reality manipulation or they exist in a dimension that is overlapping ours. So they will do things that doesn't work in our reality. They will go into forms that don't really work in our reality. So in some cases, like in the story, there's a whole thing where if people watch like a TV screen, they can be summoned into it by children's imaginations, and they will draw their imaginary friends, and their imaginary friends become the form of the alternates. So kind of reality manipulation, but under the same guise, they might just be demons, so we're already kind of splitting hairs at this point. Okay, and kind of spoilers for it, also master level infiltration. They can, I don't want to spoil it because it is kind of a cool twist. There is a key character within Mandela Catalog that is supposed to be a normal human. He's actually turns out to be a alternate the entire time, which tells me that they have the capacity to live a full life. But you know what, brother? Yeah, master level infiltration. It's not even a problem. Now, the few weaknesses that I was able to find, aside from one big one, are going to be as follows. Uncanny flaws. The fact is, bro, if I see something with elongated eyes and mouth, I'm booking it. Verification breakdowns, complex and personal questions can expose an alternate. So, like, for example, if there's something pretend to be your boo, and she's coming up, she's knocking on the door, and you're like, and then she's like, babe, let me in, there's an alternate. You can ask her a question like, I was about to go far with that. Just ask her a normal question, then be like, how did you two meet? And she answers the question correctly, you can let her in. If she doesn't, and she's like, but I still love you. See for the streets, dog. Let the alternates take her, bro. Honestly, man. At that point, let the alternates take her. Next one. Indirect unalivers. I love YouTube, but that is one thing that is kind of annoying. What I mean by indirect unalivers, they can't actually get rid of you by their own means. This is what I mean by psychological, what would be the word? Psychological domination. They have the ability to slowly but surely whittle you down to the point that you will do the dirty work for them, if you catch my drift. So, a way that you can get around this would be to limit your exposure to these things, which is a lot easier said than done, because once they hone in on you, they will hone in on you. However, the few ways to get around this, actually, I don't want to give my tactics yet. And one more, actually, there's two more here. They depend on your isolation. If you isolate yourself from your friends and family, they are going to hone in on you specifically. You can decrease the likelihood of them taking you out by being by as many people as possible. Every single time an alternate is trying to take out somebody, it almost exclusively has to take out a human being by theirself, which implies that whatever psychological domination or what would actually be the word for that? I sound dumb calling it that. Whatever ability that they use to infect you really only takes hold if you are by yourself, which is very interesting to say the least, okay? And last one, it's very isolated to Mandela County. like extremely isolated Mandela County, which is probably going to get into my ways of survival here. Survival strategies. Trust but verify. I don't care if she's your high school sweetheart. If she does not remember how you two met, see, for the streets, not even a question. Do not isolate. You are not a lone wolf furry man. No, you are one of the tribe. Go get you and a few friends, hop on Discord with your homies, and arrange a meetup, and you might be able to survive this, because I think that they rely on isolation as part of the way that they psychologically F with you. Exploit their flaws. Yeah, no, if they have little legs, run away. No, in reality, I'm like, yeah, if you don't look like a normal human being, I'm not gonna do the verification check. I am booking it, okay? And last, but certainly not least, the strat that I would use. Get the fuck out of Dodge, bro. I am booking it out of Mandela County. It's not even a remote question in my mind. I am gonzo. Absolutely skedaddling. Begone. Skedanja. Bro, I'm gone. I'm sorry. I ain't effing with this. There's demons? Absolutely not, bro, okay? Now, with all that being said, I am putting this, in reality, cooked. Yeah, bro, I'm probably cooked. All things considered, the moment they find me, I am cooked. I have to rely on just straight up isolation tactics in order for me to survive. A one-on-one, I am cooked, but I'm gonna put it there. But, all that being said, that's how I would place it. The Boiled One Phenomenon. Okay, Boiled One Phenomenon is a short little video which opens up as a little cassette tape that gives you the rundown that the rolling blackouts that occurred, in the early 2000s when I was a wee lad were actually because they were trying to isolate the zone of this thing infecting things, okay? Imagine there's a little cartoon TV show that ran for about, 10 episodes, and then all of a sudden there's a mystery 11th episode that comes on. You go to watch this little rerun thinking there's a new episode, okay? You go to watch it, and then this thing turns up on screen speaking unholy gibberish to you to the point that you actually have to recite psalms to get this thing out of your head, okay? And this is how I'm going to introduce you to the Boiled One Phenomenon, okay? Very, very unclear. I'm just going to assume a demon. I've said a few things that... I'm going to be real, dog. The lore crafting on this thing is very weird to me because it ranges from it's a demon to it's the ghost of some, war criminal from the Vietnam War. And I'm going to be real here now. In my personal headcanon, it's a demon. Don't be ruining it like that. That is how we're going to be doing this, okay? We're going to be getting into the strengths of this absolute nightmare, okay? Memory manifestation. Even remembering what this thing looks like implies that has a doorway into your mind. And if it has a doorway into your mind, you're going to find out what it has the ability to do in a second. But this is in itself a cognito hazard. And that goes into the next one. Cognito hazard. For anyone who doesn't know what that is, essentially knowing about its existence, having memories of its existence leaves you open for it to be able to tampering with you. Psychological torture. Yeah, you ever have sleep apnea? But turned up to 10. It puts you in a sleep apnea, causes auditory hallucinations of screaming and the trumpets of revelation. Absolutely metal. That's such a cool concept. I love all of these. But oh my gosh, does that not mess with you? Okay, and I'm going to lean on the psychological torture part because it also has selective visibility because it can be seen by you, but it won't be seen by things it doesn't want to be seen by. Which implies two things. Either it's not actually there and it's manifested inside your very mind, or it is actually there and it has an ability to bestow you a gift or a curse to be able to view it once it fully controls you. Yeah, brother, absolutely not. Okay, so we have a cognito hazard that can infect broadcast. Once it gets inside of your head, the only ways to really get it out would be to use some type of biblical scripture. And on top of that, it's going to cause you to have unholy sleep apnea. So what are the weaknesses of this thing? Faith-based resistance. I said that if you if you read aloud the scripture, there is a chance that you're going to be able to build up a holy enough resistance in order to be safe from the Boiled One phenomenon. Now, this is measurable, but at the same time, it's not 100% foolproof, which also kind of... I want to know how well does it actually work? That would be my next one. Prevention measures, blue light glasses, distance from screens, and avoiding his imagery lessens exposure risk. Bro, if this thing gets thwarted by blue light glasses, I like looked at the wiki. Oh my gosh, if that is an actual thing that like actually gets you out of this thing, that'd be hilarious. It infects you through the blue light. It's a blue light demon. I don't believe that for a fact, brother. I think I got poisoned by the wiki on that one. Because if that is the case, I'm 100% surviving this thing, and I wish I had a blue light subscription to sell you on this, but I frankly just don't. It is not a physical confrontational force. It is very strictly a psychological one at best, causing you to be basically paralyzed from the neck down is what it does, and causes you to only be able to communicate through blinking. Containment is possible. If you can limit the spread of people that know of it, and the footage of it existing, then in theory you would be able to contain it for a long enough time that it would honestly become an absolute threat. An absolute not a threat. Now, in terms of survival strategy, what would be my personal strat to take down this thing? I'm going to be honest with you, dog. If I see a rerun of an episode that I've never seen before, I'm probably getting got. Now, the only thing that is kind of a luck here is that it's implied that there is a faith-based resistance, so my only real chance is to quite literally pray for protection. Everything else, I am absolutely cooked, okay? But within the Boiled One phenomenon, you can reverse his voice, which implies that his voice works more as an incantation to get inside of your head, because if you reverse it, it loses its nullifying effect even by seeing its own face, which is really interesting if you think about it. So whatever he's saying is more of an incantation to get inside of your head, outside of it literally be he is already in your head. That all being said, I am going to put the Boiled One phenomenon in a prey level of difficulty, if that makes sense. The entity from Local 58, okay? Imagine we're taking place in like the 1990s. You got basically like the prime time of cable television. Think like Top 5 funniest American home videos. I remember watching that a lot. I also remember watching a lot of The Price is Right. That was another big one when I was a kid at my grand and grandpa's house. So I think of a lot of that when I'm thinking about the golden age of cable television, okay, which is absolutely insane to talk about now. But imagine you're living in that time, and all of a sudden there's an emergency broadcast coming from the U.S. government, and they are essentially telling you that, hey, yo, be a patriot. Do Minecraft save quit to you and your neighbors. We will not be conquered. We will conquer ourselves. That's essentially the broadcast that we were hit, okay? And you find out that didn't actually come from the government. That came from the moon. There's a lot of lore that I have to catch you up with, but the moon can hijack radio frequencies, and not just that, it can also hijack GPS, and if you really want to go as far, anything that is not considered analog technology. And that's where we get into the themes of Local 58, okay? The ways to get around this would be, in theory, to limit your exposure to anything that is not an analog device, so anything that's not really digital. Strengths of the Local 58 entity. Signal control, as already stated. Psychological warfare. It can install subtle messaging that is meant to unnerve you. Think like subliminal messaging. That's essentially what it can do. And sometimes it works. We don't ever see like a super wide, like you don't get a scale of how effective this thing is, but it is implied that people know how effective this is because the government has basically tried to hit its messages with other messages, basically to hit it off the air. So there is some level of defense that we can do at this thing. Mass reach, it can hit absolutely everybody that's in front of a television, which would be the majority of the American population of 360 million people would be hit directly with this messaging. Now, this is where we get into the weaknesses. I loved Local 58. It was the first great analog horror that I ever watched, but this is where we're going to get into the weaknesses of it. It not only requires a medium, the medium itself is not supernatural, so it doesn't force you to do anything. So that PSA that I told you about before, people had to just listen to that. It didn't actually force them to do any of this. So it requires a medium. It's not supernatural in its way of forcing you to do things. It is an indirect threat at absolute most. Each of the signals are not only traceable. The infrastructure for how it is, if you get rid of the cell towers, it actually limits its reach to almost nothing because this thing has been dormant for the majority of human history because it had no way to communicate with us. And this is where we get to how I would beat it. Turn off the TV! Anything that is telling you to do something you don't want to do, turn it off. How you deal with the Local 58 monster is literally how you deal with cyberbullying. Just ignore it, Felisa. It's not real. Well, in this scenario, it is real, but stop it. That's really what I'm trying to say here, okay? If the GPS is telling you to go to a location you don't want to go to, if the TV is telling you to do some unspeakable things, maybe don't listen to the TV, Felisa. Maybe, I don't know, go get some boba at the local Starbucks. Maybe that should be your strat. Maybe that's how we should help you. But, yes, I'm gonna keep it real here, dog. Absolutely easy. I am surviving that, and I'm gonna be like, bro, that was weird. Yeah, really weird, bro. Let's go land on the moon again. Easy, not even a remote question. The man in the suit. Okay, I need to clear this up because there's a clip of me being kind of critiquing the man in the suit. I didn't really find it all that scary, and I'm gonna be honest with you. Maybe I'm not like the fan base of it. However, I do gotta state this now. After watching an uncomfortable amount of analog horror, I have determined this. Analog horror is the new creepypasta. Man in the Suit is by far above average in comparison to everything else that is analog horror. I forgot just how bad analog horror is when you look at it in its entirety. Man in the Suit's probably is legitimately one of the better ones. But what is the story of Man in the Suit? They're filming a Godzilla movie, and one of the people got fused inside of the Godzilla suit, and now he thinks he's Godzilla. He has regenerative abilities and some level of Godzilla's abilities. No, he is not giant. He is literally just a dude inside of a Godzilla suit that his bones and muscle have been fused into it, essentially becoming Godzilla. Okay, strengths of the man in the suit, essentially. He's a flesh suit fusion, again, permanently merged inside the Godzilla suit. Flesh, bone, and fabric have become one organism. Regeneration, acidic and radioactive blood. His bodily fluids burn through metal and electrics and even start forest fires. What? Okay, we might be cooked in that scenario. Nah, I think we might be able to handle that if I'm being honest. Is a parasitic infection. Bites or attacks can cause other suit actors like Mothra and Ghidorah to fuse with their costumes, spreading the phenomenon. So, if I wore a furry suit, do I become my fursona? Do I become... does that actually happen, though? Bro, I ain't gonna lie. To the creator of Man in the Suit, you could make a really good furry analog horror if you wanted. Like, that would be the next iteration that I would... Do you have any idea how terrifying that would be if people just start getting attacked outside of a furry con? Absolutely. Bro, attacks on Furry Lane are taking over! That would be absolutely insane. I would watch that every single day of the week. Immense physical power at times demonstrate kaiju-like strength, including mauling, castmates, and damaging reinforced suits. And psychological delusion. They believe themselves to be Godzilla. Now let's get into the weaknesses of this thing, and yes, there's quite a few. Unstable mental state. With delusions of grandeur and very animalistic, they are not really capable of any high level of strategizing and planning, so you could take advantage of that pretty easily. Tasers and electrical shocks are also extremely effective because at the end of the day, it is a species of flesh, and I'm sorry, bro, electricity will work on you. Automatically, that's where I'm going. Overexertion easily. Brother has no cardio. Brother, somebody has to fraud check him. Take him out to deep waters. Absolutely smother him. That would be the fact. And a weakness to high calibers. Bring back the 12 gauge. I think we can handle this pretty easily, okay? And here's the one that does have to be bring up. They can be contained. You can chain them up, and they will be contained. Even that immense strength doesn't really save them. So, no, this is where I get into my strat of how I'm going to take this one down. Number one, bro, we're hitting him from a taser from far enough away. When he starts seizing up, this is what's going to happen. I'm either going to put some restraints on him, or I'm going to pull up with a few of my homies, and we are going to make sure Godzilla does not return. There's a few other ways that we can do this, but I would like to remind you that Godzilla is inspired by the bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. America created Godzilla, and we will be the ones to get rid of him. That is how I'm looking at it. That is how I'm going to be taking care of this thing. And how are we going to get rid of Godzilla? The same way that we brought him into existence, overwhelming force, sock and awe tactics. We are turning him into dust, okay? And there's a few ways that you can do this. You have tasers that are going to be able to weaken him every single time he wants to get back up. Stop resisting! And then at that point, bro, we're going to use... Like, I'm going to be real. This is not a big problem. This one's not a big problem. I like... Oh, well, if he bites you, he infects you. Brother, you're not getting that close. I'm not letting you get close, dog. I'm sorry. I'm going to take this man in the suit. That's a mid-diff level difficulty. He's not the easiest because I will literally just ignore the broadcast from the local 58 monster, but it is like a mid-diff. If he's coming up on me with super strength, I just need to create some distance because the Godzilla was never that fast. The Intruders from Greylock. I was debating what entity from Greylock I was going to do because you have the thought forms, you have basically the mother of like the mother of the mountain. That's a god, so we're not going to be able to deal with. But I think the nearest entity that we can really deal with would be the Intruders, or as I like to call them, the miners. Okay, what essentially happened is they were doing a mining expedition down into Mount Greylock, and they came across some very, very old artifacts, and then they started getting infected by essentially a cognito hazard from a forgotten god that was morphing them into eldritch entities that have the abilities to slightly mind control you, spit up acidic vomit that'll melt you, emit toxic gas, and one of them literally has the ability to, if you touch them, you're just gone. That's a lot of them. Most of them don't really have this. They're more or less just extremely animalistic human beings. And that's essentially what we're dealing with when we're talking about the Intruders from Greylock, okay? Abilities include acidic vomit, again, slight mind control, some level of disguise, stealth, superhuman strength, and the ability to coordinate. Because they're pack hunters. After all of that's being said, I'm gonna be honest with you. This one's gonna be this one's gonna be pretty difficult if I'm gonna be honest here. Weaknesses that I've been able to find out. They do have some level of weakness to high caliber weapons, and on top of high caliber weapons, some of them have had a measurable amount of distress from being hit with low caliber. They also have the ability to burrow through the ground, which is like, brother, what? Which I mean actually kind of makes sense if you think about it, but. The fact that they are pack hunters, the fact that each of them serve a role within inside of their pack, whether that be either range or strength. I'm going to be real here. My survival tactics, you got to fortify your own position. They require stealth to be able to take it out, so I would illuminate your surroundings, set up a secured perimeter where as they're coming in, you're going to be able to essentially narrow them in to a like a bottleneck, and then that's going to be where you're going to have to unload. And on top of that, literally have set up multiple fronts, like you have the gate, you have the outer gate, inner gate, door. Like, you want to make this as difficult as possible because you want as much time as possible to take care of this threat. And with all that is being said, I'm putting the Intruders on a high diff, arguably above a mimic if I'm being honest. The Painter from Urban Spooks the Painter. Understand this, okay? I was not a big fan of the Painter as it was originally going, but it had a really good ending. And what is the entity from the Painter? He is a serial unaliver. That is literally his whole thing. However, he has a level of sadistic enjoyment out of doing it that it's legitimately not just creative, but disturbing, the type of stuff that he's able to come up with doing, okay? And he's like a pretty good artist too. I'll give him that. Bro's a pretty good artist as well. But you understand what I'm saying here. The entirety of the Painter is essentially, bro, if I took Dexter and turned it into an analog horror but made it like 3 times more edgy. That's essentially what we're dealing with here. Strengths include, just like every other serial unaliver, psychological terror, unpredictable violence, has a team dynamic with a fellow painter, persistence. When it locks onto a target, it will continuously go after you and track you down. It has an ability to engage in deception, such as lying, pretty easy enough, and has a fearsome reputation that can deal with, it has an aura that you kind of have to deal with over here. Not supernatural, he's just built different. Now, the weaknesses. It's a man. I can deal with that. I'm sorry, bro. This is not any supernatural entity. You have to follow the rules of biomechanics. And you know what biomechanics say about you? If you lose a certain amount of red, you're gonna be dead. That's essentially what's gonna happen if you're gonna be coming a little bit too close, okay? From what I've seen, it relies on close range as well, which is super dumb, by the way. I'm sorry, dog. You are gonna get done. I'm sorry, bro. You are not getting within social distance of me. You are gone. Okay? 2 of you, bet, bro. Get me and 5 other dudes. we are handling this business, okay? We go out in twos. Everybody gets a battle buddy. The moment one person goes missing, we're going to be able to set up a not only a perimeter, but a search out of trying to figure out this thing, or we just stay in one area, and as it comes in, we can deal with both of them. I'm sorry. It's just a dude. And when I'm looking at all of that, that would be my tactics and how I would deal with it. I'm going to put it in a mid-diff. It's not the easiest, but I'm putting it in a mid-diff. And those are analog horrors and how I would beat them, okay? If this video was entertaining you, please like, comment, and subscribe. I'm trying to put out some new types of content. I think this is a good one to start out the spooky month. If you want me to do deep dives, if you want me to do more how to beat videos over like zombies, aliens, stuff like that throughout fiction, I would be completely down with doing that, and leave a suggestion down in the comment section down below. And with all that out of the way, I will see you all in the next video. Adios, guys.